لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. You can say it once or 100 times or more. You feel a peace inside and it'll open every door. That's the power of remembering Allah. It's the best way to purify your heart. You know you will be loved by the merciful one. 'Cause that's the power of remembering Allah. Subhanallah walhamdulillah. La ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah walhamdulillah. La ilaha.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, a very welcome to another special edition of School Matters, proudly supporting our grade 12 learners who are currently writing their final examinations. For almost 20 decades, this program, School Matters, has been dedicated to guiding, uplifting, and preparing our matric learners for success. Tonight, we're focusing on one of the big ones, accounting. We know the pressure is intense, expectations are high, and stress levels rise, not only for the learners, but also for the parents and educators. But remember, you are not alone. As always, we have brought in the finest expert teachers, matric examiners, experienced markers, dedicated educators, seasoned educators, all here to help you revise with confidence and make your accounting paper smooth sailing, inshallah. So stay with us, get your notes ready, and let's make success happen. Joining us this evening are one of our expert educators who will be guiding us through the accounting paper, Mr. Christopher DEONARAIN. Did I pronounce that right?
You did.
Okay. From BURNWOOD Secondary. You know, it's kind of nostalgic. Can I say this? Our lady who did the Afrikaans, this is a half. And you know, they both come from BURNWOOD Secondary. And if you know, I'm going to say this again, one of the principal, someone who was very involved when it came to tech, coding and robotics when he first started, and taking School Matters also to another level, someone who was also always planting seeds within me in almost 2 decades, Mr. Gokul, the late Mr. Gokul. You know, he was a principal of BURNWOOD Secondary, and his wife, Mrs. Gokul, is also an educator at the same school. And tradition goes on. As you know, he passed away during COVID. May the Almighty rest his soul, and many others who we have lost, who was such valid part and an integral part of School Matters. But again, his legacy lives on with his educators being part, openly wanting to contribute and educate the nation, and, you know, taking their personal time, home time, just to be here. So we're really grateful. So welcome to School Matters. We truly appreciate you, you know, giving once again your valuable time to uplift, support, and empower our grade 12 learners. Thank you for your dedication, for your offering your expertise so generously to ensure that the class of 2025 achieve excellence.
Good evening, listeners, and thank you, Mrs. Sumaya Khan and Radio Al Ansaar, for having me as your guest tonight.
Yeah, so we finally got BURNWOOD Secondary back in the house.
Yeah, you made me a little bit emotional there thinking about our late Mr. Vanesh Gokul. You know, the man, the legend. He was my mentor, and hopefully we carry on his legacy.
You know, that was always one thing you always said. And he was, you know, he was somebody who always was positive. If you saw a person who was negative and bad vibes, he'll always say, give them a chance and see what. So that's something we learned from him. And he was someone who wasn't power hungry, but he was more of an innovator, and he wanted to build. And look at us today. I remember when I was in Satu on the BEC getting a bit personally, our branch executive, we used to have our meetings at BURNWOOD Sec.
Correct.
And you were just a new teacher there at that moment.
Correct. He gave me my opportunity, and that was the beginning of Mr. C. DEONARAIN and my career. Yeah.
And you flourished, and you're an excellent accounting teacher. And as once again, we are really honored, bit of sentimental, because the legacy lives on with his offsprings, I can say, or his educators, continuing servicing the community and broader spectrum of KZN. And also we live on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So you're going to be doing the accounting
Paper 2.
Paper 2. When are they writing?
So paper 2 will be written in mid-November. Well,
Yeah.
Sumaya, paper 1 was written on Monday.
Yeah.
And obviously I just have a message to the learners, the parents, and the educators. Paper 1 was written. Everybody has their opinions about it. But let it digest. Whatever happened. Whatever's done, it's done. To the students, I don't want you to carry the burden. If you felt like you made a mistake in that paper, you rather use your energy in preparing yourself for paper 2. And I want you in this session just to reset your mind, and let's grab the opportunity that's awaiting for us in paper 2. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I know lots of, I think it's like accounting, maths, Afrikaans, physics. Those are like stressful, stressful papers.
Yeah, it is stressful, but obviously if you manage your time properly, there's nothing that you can't accomplish.
Okay. So we will end like about 3 to 8 for me to do my closure.
Sure.
So we'll be taking a break at 7:40. So you may commence.
Perfect. So guys, obviously I know you're smart out there, so you can obviously take this YouTube video and transcribe the audio into text. So I'm going to try to be a little bit fast and precise because there's many topics in paper 2. So firstly, as soon as you get your paper, students, what I want you to do is plan properly during reading time. Use your reading time effectively. Read every instruction carefully. Then obviously, once you're done reading, plan the questions that you find easy. Now remember, when you start this paper, you don't need to answer it in sequence. You can start with any question that you feel comfortable with. As you know, paper 2 cost accounting, there's 4 major topics, and I would like to say 2 minor topics. There's obviously stock systems, you've got manufacturing entities, you've got budgets, you've got reconciliations, and the 2 minor topics are value-added tax as well as tangible asset note. And those 2 topics can go with, or it can pair with any of the other 4 major topics. So after you use your reading time effectively, you need to understand the exam command mastery. There are certain words that you need to master. Whenever the examiner has asked you to quote, you must always indicate the year, always indicate the figures, and show a trend, and then comment on that trend. And that's how you're going to get full marks when it comes to questions where it tells you to quote. If they tell you to give a reason, and as a marker from the previous years, they either tell you to give a yes or a no answer, and the students give a yes or a no answer, but they don't justify, they don't substantiate, and that's where they lose marks. So those are 2 important things I wanted to share with you. So I want to go over one topic with you, which is inventory valuation, or otherwise known as stock systems. And as you know, there are 3 stock systems. You got FIFO, first in, first out, weighted average method, as well as a specific identification method. In terms of that question, I want to do something called definition blitz. So I want to go over the definitions, and these are questions that they ask you. These are the low-hanging fruits. These are something that you cannot get wrong. So they ask you, what is, or define FIFO. FIFO is first in, first out, and you get a mark for that. Another question, they'll tell you differentiate between perpetual inventory system and periodic inventory system. Perpetual inventory system is when the cost of goods are sold at the point, and they use markup to obviously calculate that. With regards to the periodic inventory system, it is usually you calculate the cost of sales at the end of the year by a physical stock count. Another one would be weighted average method. And this is more relevant for low-cost items purchased on a regular basis. Then you got specific identification method, and that assigns costs individually based on specific characteristics for specific items. So those are some of the definitions that are common. It has come out year after year in your paper. Thereafter, the most common question is they tell you to value closing stock. Calculate the value of closing stock. And they will obviously give you which method that you need to use. If they tell you to use first in, first out. Now remember, we work with the last month purchased. And we always look at what the closing stock in units is. That's our target. And then whatever information they give you, work with the last month that's purchased. If the last month purchase stock is extinguished, then you obviously go to the next month until you reach your target, and then you multiply it by your values. But also take into account, you need to subtract your returns from those months. If they ask you to use the weighted average method, then you've got that formula. And I know your educators have drilled this formula into your head. It's your opening stock value plus your purchases value plus your carriage on purchases value plus your custom duties value divided by your opening stock units plus your purchase units minus your return units. Now remember, when you are inputting this in your calculator, the common mistake that we see learners doing is that they do not use brackets, and then they just put their final answer in the paper and they get it wrong. What you should do is show the numerator and denominator in steps. So even if you make a mistake in between, you still get a method mark. The next method that they could ask you to use to calculate the value of closing stock is the specific identification method. And that is really simple. You take the sales units minus your opening stock units plus your purchases units, and that will give you your closing stock units, and you multiply it by the cost price. So those are the three methods that you can use to value closing stock. Now, if you look at the previous year's papers, it's always 2 out of the 3 that comes out, or sometimes it's just 1. The common ratios that you find in this question, and I'm sure again your educators have drilled this into you, it's your stock holding period, your rate of stock turnover, and calculating of markup, which is very uncommon. But if they tell you to calculate, you just calculate. And also remember, they give you the formula sheet at the back of your paper. But these are the common ratios that you should already know. It should be drilled into you. If they tell you to comment and quote, then I told you this at the beginning of the session. When they tell you to comment and quote, please indicate the year, please indicate the trend, and tell me whether it increased or whether it decreased. Another common question that they ask you in this section is, how long will it take you to sell your closing stock units? Now, you're sitting with closing stock units. As an owner, put yourself in that position. How long will it take you to sell this closing stock? So you take your closing stock units divided by your units that you sold for the year times 365, because that's how many days we have in the year. And that will give you an estimate of how long it will take you to sell that closing stock. Other common questions for this section based on the scenario. I've seen this before many years. They'll tell you, for example, a whistleblower informed the owner of certain fraudulent activities. So how can you prove that the above took place? And this was common. This was actually last year. They asked you, how can you prove that the above took place, that fraudulent activities took place with employees within the business? So the answers that we looked for when we were marking is, and it's simple, keep it simple to get that mark, simply through surveillance. Have a look at surveillance and you can see if any fraudulent activities took place. Obviously, physical counting of stock, cross-checking it to invoice when you receive the stock. Always put yourself as the owner, put yourself in that position of the business. You are the owner. You're receiving stock. What are you going to check it against? Check it against that dispatch note. Check it against the invoice. With regards to staff that are selling goods. So with regards to theft of cash, reconcile your daily reports from the point of sale system to the cash received or credit or debit card transactions. All items should also have barcodes and on those items. And then obviously you should have security cross-checking the items that are taken out of the store against the invoice, against the slip. Another question that's related to this is that how can you prevent the above? How can you prevent fraudulent activities? So you can obviously say through segregation of duties. But what happens when we mark? You're not justifying, you're not giving us more. We just give you 1 mark because you said through segregation of duties. But how? So if a person orders stock, they should not be in charge of receiving the stock. If a person is selling stock, they should not be in charge of dispatching that stock. All transactions must have authorization. Someone who is senior should authorize all of these transactions. And most importantly, you can also say that security physically check every item that is entering or exiting the business entity. And you see this as you go shopping, as you go into any entity, you see security at the entrance and at the exit of every place. So that is inventory valuation in a nutshell. The next topic will be manufacturing entities. And again, I want to just do a definition blitz with you. So some of the definitions that they ask you, which are 1 or 2 marks, and these are the low hanging fruits. They'll ask you maybe what are direct materials. And remember, when they ask you these definitions, they won't just tell you define. It could be underline the correct answer. It could be matching. So some of the definitions that are related to this section, you've got direct materials, and that is materials that form a significant part of the item produced. So if you're producing a table, which is a very common example, what's the significant item to produce the table? Obviously, it's wood or steel. Then you got indirect materials, and that is materials used in the manufacturing process, but it does not form part of the item produced or the significant part of the item produced. And indirect materials, you know these examples. Your teachers drilled it into you. It's your consumable stores, it is your cleaning materials, it's your packaging materials, it's all of the stuff that does not form a significant part of the main item. Direct labor, you know, it's the labor directly involved in the manufacturing process. Think about someone making the table. It's all those employees that are physically working to make that table. They're working in an assembly line. You got indirect labor, and that's labor that's used in the factory to support the manufacturing process, but they're not physically actually working on that item. So what are some examples of your indirect labor? It's your factory foreman. It's your factory supervisor. It's a factory cleaner. They are there to support the employees in the assembly line. Factory overheads or all other expenses that are incurred in the factory to produce the goods. For example, your water and your electricity, your indirect labor, your indirect materials, otherwise known as consumable stores. All of those items form part of factory overheads. Fixed costs, that are costs that remain constant irrespective of the amount of goods produced. And then you have your variable costs, costs that vary in proportion to the amount of goods produced. You've got your administration costs, and they relate to expenses of the general management of the entity. And then you got sales and distribution and all costs related to selling of the item produced. So these are some of the definitions that relates to this section. And I told you before, they can ask you in any different format. It's either matching, underline the correct answer, or just define. So these are some things that you should not get wrong. These are the low-hanging fruits that you have to get right. Then we go to the production cost statement. And then again, you know, it's all about format when it comes to the production cost statement. This is something that you cannot get wrong. I know you know the format. It's your direct materials plus your direct labor, and that gives you your prime cost. Your prime cost plus your manufacturing overheads, and that will obviously give you your total cost of production. You then got your work in progress, which is your opening balance, minus your work in progress, your closing balance, and that gives you your cost of production of finished goods. But you know, in accounting, it's never that straightforward. There's always some twists, there's always some turns. But what are these twists and turns? So, if you look at direct materials, you know how to calculate direct materials. It's your opening stock value plus your purchases plus your carriage on purchases plus your custom duties value minus your returns value minus your closing stock value, and that gives you your direct materials. However, in 2023, they included inventory valuation on calculating the direct materials. If you go to that paper, you'll see it's there. So inventory valuation is something that I covered. You just have to basically determine the value of closing stock, subtract it from that same formula of opening stock plus purchases plus carriage on purchases plus custom duties minus your returns minus your closing stock. That is going to give you your direct materials. Direct labor, it's your salary, your wage, and don't forget, it's all of your contributions. And you know your direct materials plus your direct labor gives you prime cost. So what is that twist or turn that you could get in this part of the production cost statement? Sometimes they give you the prime cost and they tell you to calculate the direct labor. And even though if direct materials is there, it's given to you, then direct labor simply becomes X. And when you're working backwards, positive becomes negative, negative becomes positive. You know this. So all you have to say is your prime cost minus your direct materials would give you your direct labor. Your manufacturing overheads is a note, and you know all your indirect materials, it's your indirect labor, it's your rent that is allocated to the factory. All expenses that are incurred to the factory must be allocated to the manufacturing overheads. You add that to your prime costs, and you obviously get your total cost of production plus your work in progress opening balance minus your work in progress closing balance, and that gives you your cost of production of finished goods. But you've seen in your papers, sometimes they'll tell you calculate the work in progress closing balance. It's not given, it becomes X. So how do you calculate it? So sometimes they give you the cost of production per unit. So how do you calculate the cost of production of finished goods? You take your cost of production per unit and then you multiply it by the number of units produced. That's how you're going to get your cost of production finished goods at the end of the production cost statement. And like I said before, you simply work backwards to solve for X. So that's one twist and one turn there. What's another one? They could give you cost of sales. Now you're asking yourself, where does cost of sales fit into the production cost statement? Remember, we've got something called finished goods, and there's a note for finished goods as well. It's your finished goods, your opening stock, plus your total cost of production, minus your finished goods closing stock, and that gives you cost of sales. So if they give you cost of sales, all you need to do is plug it into that format. If they give you the finished goods opening stock, if they give you the finished goods closing stock, you plug those figures in and you solve for X. And thereafter, you simply put it into your production cost statement. Another common question that they always ask you is, calculate the wastage of raw materials. Now, they'll give you certain information. They'll tell you that it takes so many meters to produce, so many meters of wood to produce a table. So all you need to do is take that meters, multiplied by the number of tables that you produced, and that's how much of direct materials that you should have used. So you compare what you should have used with what you actually used. So if you used about 18,000 meters of raw materials, when you should have used only 10,000 meters, then obviously 10,000 meters minus your 18,000 meters give you wastage of 8,000 meters. So then again, you will always take the meters per unit, times it by the number of units produced. It gives you the actual material, the material that you actually used minus what you should have used. Another common question in this section, and it's your calculations, it's your break-even points. Now, you know your formula for break-even point. It's your fixed cost, and fixed cost is made up of your factory overheads plus your administration, and it's your total. Many kids, as I've been marking papers, I've seen they're putting per unit. It's not per unit, it's your total fixed cost as a whole, divided by, open brackets, your selling price per unit minus your variable cost per unit. Now, what is your variable cost per unit made up of? It is your direct material cost per unit plus your direct labor cost per unit plus your selling and distribution cost per unit. And that's how you get your break-even point. But of recent, they haven't been telling you to calculate the break-even point. They want you to prove the break-even point. And as a marker in the previous years, what students are actually doing is that they're just calculating the break-even point and they're not getting marks for it. So how do you prove break-even point? So break-even point will be given to you in that information. You simply say your break-even point times your selling price per unit. That will give you a positive figure. Remember, you're selling, that means money is coming in. It's a positive figure. Then you will say break-even point times your variable cost per unit, and that's a negative figure. And then you take your total fixed cost, that's also a negative figure. So you'll say your break-even point times your selling price, your positive figure, minus your break-even point times your variable cost per unit, minus your total fixed cost, and that answer should give you something that is close to zero. Now remember, break-even point is a point where no profit or loss is made. And your answer will be close to zero because remember, with break-even point, we round up or we round off. So you're never going to get zero. You're going to get maybe a decimal, maybe you'll get a few units extra. It's fine. As long as that figure is close to zero and you are showing your workings, you will get your marks. And then they also ask you, the business wants to make an expected profit. So how many units do you need to sell to make this expected profit? All we need to do is modify that break-even point formula. We will just say our fixed costs plus our expected net profit divided by selling price per unit minus your variable cost per unit. So those are some of the ratios that they generally ask you in the section. Other questions that they could ask you in manufacturing entities is comment on direct materials, direct labor, and factory overheads. And they'll tell you quote. As soon as you see the word quote, please put your years, for example, 2024, 2025, indicate the figures and show me a trend. And then they'll ask you, how can you improve the direct material cost per unit? So, you know, direct materials, if you're buying in bulk from your supplier, ask them for a discount. Reduce material wastage by buying good quality materials. Obtain your own vehicle instead of paying for carriage on purchases. All of this will reduce your direct material cost. With regards to direct labor, you know, if you train your employees, they become more efficient, they become more effective, and that's how you can reduce your overtime. Also, purchasing and investing in improved equipment or automation to assist in reducing labor costs. Another thing to motivate employees is offer them incentives. If you tell them you produce a number of units within a period of time, they can get a bonus. They're motivated. They want to work harder. Factory overheads, you know what goes into factory overheads. So be energy efficient. Use solar panels.
Well, we'll be taking a short ad break and we will continue with accounting.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
This adhan is sponsored for the Isale Sawab of Marhum Muhammad Farooq Latib and all Marhumin. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them the highest abode in Jannah. Ameen.
أعزائي المستمعين، حان الآن موعد أذان العشاء لمدينة دربن وما حولها.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This dua brought to you by Simplex Radio, South Africa's leading retailer of appliances, car sound and home theater systems.
Having a clean, comfortable home is every homeowner's pride. That's why Khan's Chemicals have developed and manufactured prime yet affordable quality household brands Starlight, Miracle Mum, Exterminate and Angie to care for your home and family. With a wide range of fabric softeners, dishwashing liquids, bleachers and all-purpose cleaners, pine gels, bubble baths and much more, Khan's Chemicals ensures your home remains our number one priority. For sales and other inquiries, call 011 933 4021. Khan's Chemicals, cleaning your home the way you want.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
This December school holidays, escape to an island paradise with Shore Mirage Travel. Whether it's the white sands of Mauritius, the crystal waters of Zanzibar, or the luxury of the Maldives, your dream island getaway is just a booking away. Packages starting from only 25,999 per person sharing. Unwind, explore, and make unforgettable family memories, all with exclusive December packages tailored just for you. Call Shore Mirage Travel today on 031 208 4222 or visit www.miragetravel.co.za, where your holiday dreams come true.
Craving for an easy, spicy and delicious meal made in minutes? Introducing Easy Mee Goreng, Korean-style instant noodles from Noodle King. This delicious, flavorful noodles is ready in minutes with a kick in every bite. Get your pack of Easy Mee Goreng at a retail store near you. Noodle King also boasts a whole variety of other delicious pantry must-haves. Look out for our brands at your favorite retail stores.
At Checkstar, get 5 Roses original tea bags, hundreds for 49.99 or Parmalat fruit yogurt 1 kg. Take 2 for 60 Rand. Offers valid until 9th November 2025. Only at Checkstar, Mount Edgecombe, Durban CBD and Sparks Road branches. T's and C's apply.
Radio Ansaar.
You are listening to School Matters with Sumaya Khan.
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, welcome back to School Matters. This evening, tonight, we are focusing on one of the big subjects, accounting. We have an educator, Christopher, Mr. DEONARAIN. Yes, did I pronounce that correct? From BURNWOOD Secondary. And so he's going over the accounting paper 2. You may comment.
Sure. So we covered the 2 major sections. We got inventory valuation done. We got manufacturing entities done. We're now going to look at budgets. And again, back to definition blitz. Let's look at some of the definitions that come out all the time. Cash budget, it shows the expected cash receipts and payments to check liquidity. And ultimately, your receipts minus your payments either shows your cash surplus or cash deficit. You got the projected income statement. And that shows you an estimate of profit and losses. It shows you the predicted income and the predicted expenditure. Something that's uncommon, zero-based budgets. In one of the provincial papers, every budget cycle begins on a zero basis and expenses needs to be justified. Now, some of the common questions that I've seen on the budget and when I marked, they either ask you one of the two. They ask you to complete the debtors collection schedule or the creditors payment schedule. Now, with the debtors collection schedule or the creditors payment schedule, they don't want you to compile the whole schedule. They'll have missing figures. You got to obviously plot them in. When it comes to the debtors collection schedule, you you use your credit sales, you look at your schedule, and then you allocate it according to the percentages they give you. With regards to the creditors' payment schedule, again, I don't expect them, well, the examiners to obviously ask you to do the whole thing. They'll give you some blanks and they'll tell you fill it in. You know it's your cost of sales and obviously multiplied it by the percentages. When do we expect to obviously get that money in, or when are we going to pay our creditors? Another question with budgets, they'll ask you, are items well controlled or poorly controlled? So you got to look at the specific item that they are asking you, and based on the scenario, to get maximum marks, show us the percentage of increase or decrease, and then you can obviously explain if it's well or poorly controlled. So how do you calculate the percentage? You'll take your budget figure minus your actual figure divided by your budget figure times 100/1. That is your formula. Budget minus actual divided by budget times 100/1. And what you will get is a percentage. You need to see if it increased or decreased by that percentage. You need to look at the scenario of the question as well. For example, they'll tell you comment on delivery costs, or comment on packaging material, comment on advertising, comment on commission. So you will look at the actual figure, you'll look at the budget figure, you'll use that formula that I told you, you'll calculate the percentage increase or decrease, and thereafter you need to comment, is it well controlled or is it poorly controlled? So obviously, if, for example, delivery cost is more than the budgeted amount, you can say it's poorly controlled. However, you need to link delivery costs to sales. If you're making more, if you're selling more units, and if you're delivering it to your clients, then obviously your delivery cost is going to increase. So you need to see, is that percentage increase in line with the percentage increase in sales? If it is, then it's well controlled. Also with packaging material, again, if your sales percentage increased, did packaging materials percentage increase? Was it in line with sales? And if it is, then again, you can say it's well controlled. You'll get a mark for it. Well, sometimes you should always say that the sales percentage should always outperform these expenses percentage. Also explain the change in sales policy. That's a very common question. So you need to tell me whether the percentage increase or decrease in cash or credit sales. If it was a percentage increase in cash or credit sales, then it's good. It was a good change in your sales policy. Credit sales increased, and then it also says is that explain why an owner shouldn't be concerned with an increase in credit sales. So if you look at an increase in credit sales, did the number of customers increase? If the number of customers increased, that's good. You bring more clientele to your business. Did total sales increase? That's good as well. So you need to show me, you need to quote, put the years down, put the figures, and show me that it increased. Did gross profit increase as well? So those are some of the things that you need to list why an owner shouldn't be concerned if the credit sales increased. The other minor topics will be VAT, value added tax. And you know the three rates. You got the standard rate, which is 15%. You've got your zero rate, and you've got exempts. So obviously, you know, your standard rate 15% applies to goods and services. You've got your zero rate, and that is obviously on certain items to reduce the impact on the poor. And then you obviously have exempt. And the exempt items, obviously, we cannot charge VAT on those items. So when it comes to VAT, we want to see whether VAT is payable or VAT is receivable. So you need to work with your VAT input and your VAT output items. So you know VAT input is VAT levied on goods and services purchased, and VAT output is VAT levied on goods and services sold. So in the question, they'll tell you that there's an amount owing at the beginning of the scenario to SARS, and thereafter you need to either reduce that amount owing by subtracting your VAT input items and obviously adding your VAT output items. So what are some of your VAT input items? I'm sure your teachers have drilled this in you. It's all your items that you have purchased from your CPJ. You calculate the VAT on that. Your CJ, You calculate your VAT on that. What else reduces your VAT payable? You know it's your bad debts. What else reduces your VAT payable? It will be your discount allowed. What increases your VAT payable? It's all your items from your CRJ, your sales from your CRJ, your sales from the DJ. Your discount received increases your VAT payable. Drawings increases your VAT payable. And then you will obviously show at the end whether VAT is payable or receivable from SARS. Another minor question that they could ask you is tangible assets. It varies. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't. I know it's part of paper one, but just go over it. You should know your format of the tangible asset note. You should know asset disposal as well. Another common question will be problem solving. If you look at your table of problems, they'll give you maybe 3 different businesses or 3 different products, maybe 2 different products, and they will ask you, identify some of the problems in these scenarios. So some of the problems that each scenario has is that it's either theft of cash, theft of stock, slow moving stock, or you have employees that do not have enough stock in that entity. So once you identify your problems, you also need to give solutions to these problems to gain marks in those questions. So in a nutshell, that is paper 2. So I know in paper 1, you're dwelling on that one question where they gave you final figures and they told you to calculate certain adjustments. I know it's a hot topic. I know because of time management, we did not see that it was final figures, but I don't want you to dwell on that. I want you, again, like I said at the beginning of the session, use your time effectively for reading. Make sure you read all of your instructions very carefully. Plan your time. Do the questions that you find easy. Once that is done, move on to the next question. Make sure, and I'm sure your teachers have told you this as well, do not leave any blanks. So yeah, that's paper 2 in a nutshell for you.
Okay, and important just tips and motivation to the learners.
You know, learners, I'll tell you what I told my learners. I'm sure you've got a routine. It's something that you shouldn't change. Just continue with that routine. Stay calm. Paper 2, for many students, is an easier paper than paper 1. So this is your second chance to get things right. And just take it easy. You know, remember that the NSC exams, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So just be calm. It's one paper at a time, and I'm sure you'll do well.
You know, I sometimes, just off the topic, I don't know whether, don't you feel the papers are more easy when we wrote it? Or maybe we understand it better.
You know what? My personal opinion, I remember when I did accounting back in school, there was no cost accounting. But then again, you got to think about it. The world is evolving. So should the learners. So should the subjects. They should evolve as well. They should basically be current. They should be on topic. And you know what? Our learners should also be current and on topic as well with these new changes.
Do you know, our grade 12s are really stressed. You know, and when you think about it, a lot of them are wondering where are they going to be after the examination results. And I know you guys are really stressed because you all need to get learners to pass and produce the marks. For a lot of our listeners out there who don't really know, I was having the discussion the off-air. To be a high school teacher is absolutely stressful, because you all do so much more. The foundation and the primary schools and senior primary schools educators set the foundation. But being a matric teacher especially, can you tell a little bit, just a minute or so, to our listeners, what are the challenges you'll experience when you're waiting for the results and after the results? How DOE comes so like a ton of bricks on you guys when your schools do not perform well?
So if schools do not perform well, you know what? I'll take it from my own experience. 1 year you can be a hero, the next year you can be a zero. 1 year you can be the lead educator leading another school, and next year you can be the educator that is being led.
Yeah.
So, you know what? We experience so many challenges, but unfortunately, as a grade 12 teacher, you got to take it in your stride.
Yeah.
You really just have to take in your stride. Every year is a different bunch of learners. You got to adapt to them. You got to do, ultimately, what we do is we look at every child as a child of our own.
Yeah, true.
And we just put the most that we can in, and we hope for the best as well.
Yeah. Do you know, as you're talking, I'm thinking of what Mr. Gokul, sitting right here in studio behind me in the seat next to me. He'll tell me, Sumaya, I picked up this big envelope. I put it in my back seat. You know how he talks?
And I didn't look at it.
And I didn't look at it. You know the story. He said, and I drove all the way to school, and I got all the teachers were waiting in anticipation. So you'll say, it's in the backseat. I never yet opened it. Oh, you remember those stories?
I remember those days.
You know, and he said all the way driving with that results and what the school achieved, you know, overall. He said a whole lot of thoughts would be going through his head. He'll be playing a whole lot of roles. If they did so bad, how he's going to tell the SEM or department, you know, they come and investigate and a whole lot of things. And if they did well, what he's going to do with the teachers. And so you're really celebrated when you did well.
You know, once he comes with that envelope, from experience, all the subject teachers will be scrambling for the envelope, because after we get the school results, we want to find out what's our subject results.
Yeah.
So you'll have like 5 teachers fighting for that schedule before we even make copies to give them to start calculating their results. Because, you know what, we've got teachers that are very proud of their results.
You
And they
work
should be.
hard. You work
We work
hard.
extremely hard.
Do you know, to all the grade 12 educators, again, a lot of those who are listening right now don't know, you'll have no family life because you're at school at weekends. If you are going shopping or anywhere on a Saturday, you'll see the schools open. You'll see learners walking around surrounding areas, Overport, Asheville, Reservoir Hills, Sherwood, Musgrave. You'll give up so much of your personal time, even after school, the extra classes and everything. And this is in the government sector.
Correct.
What I'm trying to say, it's like, so you got so many other ills of society and so many other challenges just to get that child to sit there and do these extra lessons.
The amount of effort that a grade 12 teacher puts in, and I like parents to know this.
Yeah.
We have classes before school even begins.
100%.
Some of the classes start at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
We have afternoon intervention classes. There's this new term that's coined, cross night, where we have classes Friday, finishes on a Saturday morning.
I heard about that.
Overnight classes.
I heard about that.
We have classes on a Sunday. We have classes online. We have group chats. It just goes on.
Do you know what's missing?
On.
You just have the learner to have to come to your home and stay there the night.
Yeah. Just camp with us.
Just camp with you. Well, you know, I'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our technician, and not forgetting our very special educator all the way from BURNWOOD Secondary, and someone who did his absolutely best with accounting. You know, I'd like to wish you and your learners everything of the best.
Thank you.
Definitely enjoy that December and January holiday, because I know lots of educators. I know our regular guest co-host Veronica is so stressed from George Campbell, because she's also stressing about their results, and I know the principal of centenary and principals all over, you know, so we truly appreciate and value the incredible work you guys do, just unwillingly for nothing, you know, in a time when tuition costs are in the thousands of rands. You are here this evening giving up personal time to uplift our nation right here on Radio Ansaar School Matters. So thank you once again for your dedication and service. To all our learners writing accounting paper, we wish you the absolute best. And to every one of our grade 12 learners writing their final exams, even if you're an adult who's writing it now, or someone who never make it, may the Almighty bless you with success, ease, clarity and calmness. Remember, hard work and dedication always pays off. From me, Sumaya Khan, your producer and presenter of School Matters. Till next week, Assalamu alaikum.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al-Ansar News.
Breaking news this hour, the 28th of October. The news from Durban 90.4 FM, Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. National Union of Metal Workers celebrates victory for workers in KwaZulu-Natal, America Monina. The National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, has commended the Labour Court ruling as a significant victory for workers in northern KwaZulu-Natal. ArcelorMittal South Africa has been ordered to reinstate workers who were unfairly retrenched at the Newcastle plant and in Vereeniging. NUMSA took the steel company to court on an urgent basis earlier this month, accusing it of ignoring consultation requirements before deciding to close the two operations. The union argued the production giant had walked away from talks on retrenchment in March, even as new developments around possible government support and a takeover deal were unfolding. The court found that the steel manufacturer failed to follow proper consultation procedures before cutting jobs last week. It ruled that ArcelorMittal must now reopen talks with NUMSA within 10 days. The union's Pagamile Hlubi Majola says the judgment offers hope that alternatives to job losses can still be explored. More news. Transport Minister Barbara Creasy says PRASA's new solar energy project at Durban Station marks a major shift toward cleaner, more sustainable transport in South Africa. Minister Creasy launched the initiative in Durban today. Creasy says the solar rollout will help PRASA cut its dependence on the national grid, improve reliability during power outages, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The minister and the passenger rail agency also marked a milestone with a 300th local built train set. Meanwhile, South Africa's renewable energy pipeline is expanding rapidly, with more than 220 gigawatts of solar, wind, and hybrid projects under development. More news. Deputy Police Minister Kasim Matela has described Police Minister Senzim Unu's decision to disband the political killings task team as problematic. Matela, who has been in the role since 2019, began his testimony before Parliament at the committee today. Matela is responding to questions if he knows a controversial business